Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're back on GT Sport today and we're back with a race, a very good combination that was on the weekend. So away from the negativity of obviously the issues that I've spotted in the game and the penalty system, which hopefully has now been fixed. There's been a patch out today that I'm hoping has fixed this. Leave any comments in the comments about that if you think that it's been resolved. Hopefully it has. But as I say, back to a really nice combination this that I was racing in on Sunday. Probably the favourite, one of the most enjoyable combinations I've come across. Not necessarily for the racing that you get, but just for the enjoyment of pushing this Porsche 919 hybrid around Suzuka. Such a nice combination to drive. I love this track. A little mistake and it can be the end of your race basically. Maybe not a GT Sport, but you know, you're gonna fall back down the grid, etc. So going through to the start, going into turn 1, pushing really hard straight away. I wanted to try and get in his slipstream. You see he made a little mistake on that corner. I had to kind of back out a bit there and then lost a bit of acceleration, not much though. Trying to stay with him as much as I can. Really hard to follow a car through here because you kind of miss your entry points when you're driving that close to someone in a car like this Porsche that really does carry extreme speeds into the corners and also has an amazing capability of braking. So it's quite hard to follow someone really close. So you're kind of best holding back a bit if in a way around the 1 second behind. But obviously I was just trying to concentrate 100%. This was my third race in this race that was on the weekend. The guy in front was the #1 in the top 10 stars when I was racing it, so there was no one really faster than this. I was number 3. The guy behind us was a little bit off us. He was about 7/10 off the speed, but he was close to the top 10 stars. And I think the top 10 stars when I did the lap was in the 141s, mid to late 141s. We managed the 141.3. I will upload that lap and do a track guide to let you guys know how to really achieve that lap. Hopefully get that up at some point this week. But I wanted to get this race out as it was such an enjoyable race to do. Pushing the limits of this car around this track, as you can see there, trying to get the slipstream, managing to get in it a bit there, gaining back a bit of speed. As he nearly lost it on that bend there, you could see the rear end screaming around a bit as he just got that tyre on the curb on the 180R where he was just pushing it. I don't think he had really hit the apex properly and ran a bit wide. So he's trying to swerve out the way slightly there, trying to get us out of his slipstream, but it's not really going to work at the moment because we're really close. And going into this really nice section of corners in this car, this is where you really do need to get in the zone and just concentrate 100%, because this is where there can be some time made up. As we slightly miss the apex of that, we hit the curb a little bit too aggressive and lost a bit of time. You can see how he's pulled away a bit there, but we managed to get nice and tight on this apex there, which gives us a real nice pull out of this corner. As you see there, it gives you a really nice angle into that left hander where you can just go flat out. And we're about a second behind, but we're maintaining over a 1.3 gap to the guy behind us. And then I actually thought at that corner there I was going to get a track penalty. I was really worried about that, but luckily we got away with it. Going into the real tight left-hander hairpin, you can see now braking hard. It was real hard corner to get your braking perfect that, because you wanted to push as far into the corner as you can, but you need to brake early enough to get that car stopped and slowed down, and then squaring it off so you can really get on the power. You can see there we're maintaining that gap of around a second. So I was really happy actually, because this guy was pulling in the first 2 races. I didn't have the speed to get anywhere near him, and on the third one we started to get closer to his speed, which is really nice. It showed that I made a lot of progress, and I was definitely getting the race pace up there for this race. I really did need to concentrate obviously, because I wasn't happy with my first 2 races. The first race we made a mistake on, and then the second race we got caught behind another guy who then decided to go on a fuel safe stop, like not pitting at all, and we ended up making an error after the pit stop and lost about 10 seconds and ended up third. So we really wasn't happy with that. So this race I really wanted to just keep pushing and try and at least push the guy to drive his maximum throughout the race, and that was my aim, just to try and hold this position and push the leader to make sure he was having to drive 100%. And I think we've achieved that. If you're looking now, we're still around that second one, just dead on a second behind him. So I'm really getting the grips of this track and car combination. And like I say, such a nice combination. I really do like driving this Porsche on this game. It really does feel really nice. The only issue I have with it is the little bit of torque steering you get, which I don't really feel should be. I've never experienced it on any other game, like being Assetto Corsa, Project Cars, and I've been watching iRacing with this. I think this car's on iRacing now. It's definitely in whether it's a newer version or an older version or a different version or whatever, but it was basically this car, and it didn't look like that torque steering was on that either. It's just weird in third gear sometimes when you really accelerate hard, it just veers in a straight line, which if anything it should oversteer when you've got no traction control on, but it's just a very slight issue. I'm not really worried about that because the overall enjoyment of this car is just really high up there, and it's definitely one of my favourite cars to drive on the game. I was dubious about it because I originally tried GR.1 car in a different one. It was a Mazda one on that, but I really didn't enjoy that car. It just felt so unrealistic. But this really does feel a lot closer to how it should do, and it's just great fun pushing this car. As you can see, the guy in leaders, he's managed to gain about a tenth on us on this lap, so he's not having it his own way. We're managing to stay as close as we can to him at the moment, and you can see I'm really trying to concentrate. I was really in the zone on this race. I just wanted to really push myself and see, consider it was only my third race on this track, I wanted to see if we could get the consistency there, and then maybe next time we come to this track in this car I can really try and start pushing them limits even further. You can see I really love going into that first corner. You're going in so deep in 7th gear, downshifting it to 5th, then 4th, and letting it just coast through the corner, and then finding the grip and it hard on the accelerator. It's just so much fun to drive this track, and these corners here in a fast car like this, I don't think there's a better section of track on many tracks that I enjoy more than these. It's probably up there with Spa, from one of my favourite tracks. This track I really enjoy it because it punishes you for the slightest loss of concentration. You can see any little bit of loss of concentration going through this corner there. You can see we go through this corner and you can see the leader makes an error and we also make a slight error, which really frustrated me. It did make us catch up a bit. He actually hit the wall on that. When I checked the replay, he sideswiped the wall. We managed, if we would have done that perfectly, I think we would have been about 6-7 tenths behind them and got right in on the slipstream, but we made that error just as he did. It was like I seen him do it, and it's one of them things that happens so much in racing games. When someone in front of you makes an error, you tend to make that error as well, because you're focused on their car and you're kind of looking at their braking zones and stuff, and it's a very common thing that happens, I find, in racing games. You follow the error that someone else makes. So you can see there, the guy behind us is starting to drop back a bit now. We're really getting on with this now. Still a second gap, and the guy behind is nearly 3 seconds behind, so we are really getting the throttle down now and starting to drive really well. That one little error, the first real error I made in the race, and we made a couple of other areas where we missed the apex slightly, but that was the first area where we got a little bit worried in terms of the rear sliding about a bit, and I got worried we might lose the back end. But luckily the guy in front obviously also made that error. As you can see, the lap time was down on that. We went from a 142.9 to a 144, lost 1.1 seconds on that. That mistake we made probably lost half a second. The guy in front probably lost a bit more because he really did, he clouted that wall quite badly. We also made an error on the hairpin after that. If you would have seen, we didn't get the car squared off and lost a bit of time. So going back through the real twisty section, you can see he's still just up ahead of us, and I was really trying. I couldn't have tried any more than what I was really at this stage, with it being my third race. With more practice, I think we could have been matching his speed, but again, I think he was really on it on this track, the guy in front. He seemed to be right, going around every corner pretty much perfectly. Obviously there will be faster people that would have been on later on in the day or in the night, etc., but this guy really was, he was really driving well, and he wasn't making many mistakes. He had really got in the rhythm of the track, and like I say, it was just an aim just to keep with him, see how we can do. Obviously there was a pit stop coming up soon. I did think he would pit around lap 5, but I think he wanted to let his fuel run down a bit more and then have fresher tyres towards the end. So I was just going to copy his strategy. If he went in the pit, that's when I was going to pit. And at this stage, I don't think he's going to pit on this lap because he's still got the fuel in there. So going through the race, you can see there's an error. If anyone's noticed that on Suzuka, I've noticed it so many times going through the 180R. If you look next time, I don't know if you'll spot it, you see like a ghost of another car going through the corner ahead of your car. It was just ahead of the guy in first place. See if you spot it next time around. I always spot it, and it's really weird. I've noticed it when you do time trials sometimes as well. It happens there. It's just a really weird bug that I always notice. I don't know if anyone who obviously if anyone's ever mentioned this before about this track, but I've spotted it when we did the GR4 race. I spotted it when I was doing the GR3 time trial round here for the qualifying, and then I spotted it in the race when we were going through there. And you know, if you guys want to rewind that back, you'll see it just ahead of the car. There's another car ahead of him going through the corner, but it's just a ghost car. It's really strange. We'll see if we can spot it this time on this lap. I think it did happen again. I'm not sure if it happened every lap, but it definitely does happen quite a lot. So you can see there, just going through that corner where we made the mistake before. This time, doing it really nice, and we actually did that fairly good that time. Tyres starting to fade off a bit. You can see on the bottom left hand corner, we're starting to get some wear on them front tyres and a little bit on the rear. So the fronts are starting to lose that grip, which you really want with this car. So it's starting to get a little bit of understeer into the way it's driving. The rears are starting to go a bit as well, so it's just getting a little bit harder to drive. Still plenty of grip obviously, but just that little bit harder, and a little bit of lap time starting to fade off, as you can see there. Lap 5, a 43.6 I think it is there. And on lap 4, that was the lap we made mistakes. So you can just see how they would have been fading off slowly. Lap 4 should have really been a 43, a low 43, and then you can see that though, if you've seen it then on the Ghost, just ahead of the leader, you would have just seen it then again. I think it was actually 2 Ghost cars that time. It's really strange. Don't know why it does it. It's just a really... I'm not sure whether it's something to do with... at some point I thought it could have been to do with where the car... Obviously the track goes over. It's a figure of 8, and it could be something to do with the cars going under it, but I don't think that's the point where it happens. So it's just a really strange issue. And anyway, going into the pits, you can see there, we decided to just put just a fraction short. I think I tried to put it a fraction short of the amount of fuel. We needed four laps of fuel, so you can see I normally go to about 3.8 because it will get you around, no issues at all. You can see there. Oh, we actually did it to 4 there. I did really want to stop it on 3.8, but it was 3.7, so we did 4. That'll probably be the issue reason why I didn't stop it that little bit shorter, as I didn't want to risk it in this car. So we come out of the pits and we actually lost a bit of time in the pits there. You can see maybe he did just under fuel that short amount. He managed to gain about half a second on us in the pits phase. Maybe he was saving a little bit of fuel through some of the corners as well. Maybe short shifting, or probably not short shifting, because I don't think it gains anything in this car. I did try it, and the fuel gains were 0. There was basically no... You would have got fuel gains, but you wouldn't have got... The difference in the lap time was just too great, because obviously the hybrid system, it just was pointless. So you'd probably just put in the fuel to mixture 2 through some of the corners. As you can see there now, again, for these last 4 laps, I really wanted to just concentrate and not let that gap... It's on 2.2 seconds, and we didn't want to get it going too high, up to like 3 or 4, to like 4 seconds. So just trying to concentrate on staying with him as much as possible, as he was really on it on this track. And again, I think we were reasonably on it. As you can see, the guy behind us is quite a way behind us now. Third place has dropped back quite a lot. I think the guy who was in third place must have made a mistake, and the rest of the cars seem quite a way off our speed. We're really pushing the limits. This is a top split races again. I just seen the Ghost car. It must be every lap it happens that. Just keep your eye out on the next lap as we're going through that corner. It's just such a weird thing that it just happens all the time. But yeah, I think we were really on it on this track as well. We were starting to get more and more used to it as the race went on. As you can see there, the leader's just gone through on a full one. His personal best in the race was probably lap 3, where he at 42.7, we at 42.9. So we're not far off the ultimate speed, and I think we both go faster on this. It might have been this lap now we're on, where we both improve our lap. We're both really concentrating and trying to put in a good lap. You can see with the gaps about 2.1 to 2.2 seconds there. We got a bit further up on the first corner. Then he pulled away a bit, and then we caught it up back a bit. It really was such a good battle. I know this is not the most exciting race to watch, sometimes races like this, but when you're involved with these races, these are the races that I really enjoy, where you basically got you versus the guy in front, and you're both on the limit, you're both pushing as hard as you can, and you're paying a lot of attention to that delta in that top left hand corner. You both know you're on the limit near enough, and you both know that one mistake from either of you and that's it. If he made a mistake, I've got the win. If I make a mistake, I've just given him the win. It's one of them races I really enjoy, because you've got to always be checking on your delta, seeing if you're losing anywhere in certain corners. I was doing it. I was saying, right, he's gaining a bit there. There's time I can actually gain myself on that corner. It's great for learning the track as well. I think it did definitely help me with my race pace, just being able to be this close to the guy in front, who, like I say, was definitely one of the top drivers on this track with this combination. And you can see there, we're up on our personal best by nearly half a second, going into the final corner, braking as late as I dared, down into second gear, hitting that curb nicely, swinging it back into this corner, getting on the power as early as I could, did that reasonably well, keeping the car over to, I should have really, at that point, kept the car over to the right hand side to try and maybe knock half a tenth off. and we go over the line on a 42.4, just a tenth off the guy behind us there, in front of us. He managed his fastest lap on that lap, and he was just a tenth quicker. So you can just see how close we were really pushing this. We're both driving pretty much identical, 2.4 to 2.5 seconds. He's just staying around that gap. He obviously gained that bit of time in the pit stop, and that's about it. There's not been any other real gains throughout the lap. Obviously in the first stint he managed to get a gap of about 1.6, 1.7 seconds. In the second stint it's not been too much of a difference. You can see there, obviously there's only 4 laps in this stint, and at the moment we're pretty much dead on what we came out of the pits. We're both really pushing. You can see there we were actually faster again in that first sector. I think I braked a little bit late into this corner, did I? No, we actually did that reasonably well. We got into corner nice, getting on the power, and I got on, that's where I remember, it's on a massive bit of oversteer on the exit of the corner, and that knocked us down to 2.6, 2.7 seconds behind him. So you can see just a slight little error like that, and it just loses you so much time with this car. As you can see, I got a bit frustrated with myself and wanted to try and get that time back. You really do need to stay in the zone with this car and concentrate 100%, as it will catch you out. Little errors like that, when we're obviously running no traction control, no counter steer assist with this car. We're just doing it at, pretty much we're running ABS. I think that's the only thing we're running, and that's the best way. I think I'm going to use this car more like that. We have got another race to upload at the Nürburgring from the sprint race. We did try traction control. I just did it for experimenting to see how it was. We'll upload that race hopefully soon. It's only a quick 3 or 4 lap race, so just a little quick upload. I just wanted to test out the traction control and just see if it could be competitive or if it actually lost you time. I think it did lose you a bit of time in acceleration, but I think you actually gained a bit back on consistency. It's fairly easy to drive with the traction control in the weakest setting, but I think the fastest overall way, the best way to do it is with it all off. So you can see now we've managed to, I think we actually gained a bit back on him this time, and we've actually gone through that first sector with a purple, so that's the fastest sector anyone's done in the race in that first sector. So I was really pleased with that. It shows you that I was definitely getting to grips with the track, really trying to push, keep it clean, going through this corner, real tricky corners to get on the power, getting on the power reasonably well there. We lost a bit of time on that sector, probably lost about a tenth on our best lap, but obviously with the tyres starting to fade again, they're hitting there like lap 4, so if it's times, I think it's like times 8 or something, the tyre wear, so obviously that's added on a lot more laps technically. I really do wish they'd go to some sort of like more time to 1 tyre wear and time to 1 fuel, longer laps, and then just put start you off with a lower amount of fuel. It just makes sense. There is an option within creating a lobby where you can set the fuel that you start with, so just start us with the amount of fuel that we'll get halfway around the track and make us have to do a pit stop. That's what I would rather see happen, but let's see what happens in the future. So going into the final corners now, you can see there we managed to keep the gap pretty much identical to what it was after that mistake on that hairpin. Really happy with the race. We end up about 2.8, 2.7 seconds behind the guy in the lead, and a really enjoyable race where we both were pushing the limits. I really do enjoy races like that, and I was really happy with the consistency. You can see within the lap times they were all fairly similar. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to be back with more Assetto Corsa, Project Cars 2 and GT Sport very soon. Thanks again for watching, and again, give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it.